Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to NoDQ video here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. I have your questions today from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag NoDQvideo. And we are coming off the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, so let's go ahead and get started with your questions. First one comes from Scott Grimes, my old buddy from Wrestling Trivia Challenge. Hey Aaron, if the Dean Ambrose news is legit, do you see it impacting Renee Young's future with WWE? She is just beginning to ascend. This is an interesting question, and quite frankly, I could see it going either way. On one hand, I think Renee Young could stick around with WWE. It's not like a married couple has to be working for the same company, and it's possible WWE may offer her a raise, they may give her a higher profile position. It's possible that WWE will do whatever it takes to keep her around. Now the question is, will she be happy being away from her husband? That remains to be seen, and nobody really knows the answer except for her. We did see what happened with CM Punk leaving and his wife AJ Lee leaving the company with him about a year after he walked out. Could end up happening with Renee Young. She may decide she's happier being with her husband. She doesn't need the money. Who knows? It's really hard to say at this point. This one comes from Jason Bush. Let's say that this Ambrose thing is a shoot. Why should we all have any faith that WWE will book the angle properly? They have completely botched his heel turn. Very valid point. If this was a work and WWE is going to reveal that Ambrose never really quit, or maybe it is a legitimate situation, but WWE decided to turn it into a work and Ambrose decided to stick around, I feel like WWE would potentially mess it up. Given their track record and even the CM Punk storyline in 2011 when he quit, WWE did not really make the storyline work, as far as I'm concerned, to maximum potential. I feel like more could have been done with that. He should have stayed away from the company for a while, maybe went to Ring of Honor and defended the WWE title, but instead he came back right away, like a week or two after Money in the Bank, and it just didn't have the impact that I felt it could have had. And you look at other storylines where a real life storyline became a fictional storyline. For instance, Matt Hardy, the love triangle with Edge and Lita, that was turned into a storyline but didn't really have the payoff you were hoping for. So yeah, I don't blame you for having doubts. If WWE did have this turn into a storyline, I could see people being very skeptical of it and not believing that WWE would be able to make a compelling storyline out of it. On paper, it sounds interesting, but we know the track record. Got this one here from Jeremy Dorsett. With the departures of Hideo Itami and soon Dean Ambrose, where do you see both of them going? In Itami's case, back to Japan or AEW. As for Ambrose's, AEW is a more likely option, as well as it would be nice to see a fresh, renewed push for Ambrose if he goes to AEW. As far as Itami goes, I would suspect he'll end up back in Japan. Now, it's always possible AEW may offer him a big deal, but my gut feeling is he'll go back to Japan. Ambrose, my feeling is he would end up in AEW. Now, will Ambrose actually be gone for good, or will he change his mind? That remains to be seen. WWE may offer him an offer that he just cannot refuse, like The Godfather. But then again, Ambrose may decide there are more important things than money, and he'd rather be happy than be wealthy. Maybe he seeks happiness in other areas besides just actual wealth. Now, of course, there's the whole deal with AEW and the cons apparently having a lot of money at their disposal. So perhaps Dean Ambrose could make a good amount of money and have the creative freedom that he wants, and it'll work out for him. So my feeling is Ambrose will end up in All Elite Wrestling if he does, in fact, leave WWE. Got this one here from Garrett Mills. Do you think that there's a chance the Dean Ambrose leaving news is a work to start an angle with the McMahon family? I don't believe so at this time. Now, I can understand people having mixed feelings about this and not sure what to believe, because WWE is professional wrestling, and professional wrestling is all about working people and tricking them. So who knows what's really going on behind closed doors, but my feeling is it's legitimate. Although it is unprecedented the way that it's been done so far, with WWE announcing his departure 3 months in advance. It's just something unheard of, something WWE hasn't done before. So that's why people are like, well, what's going on here? WWE has never done this. So people are starting to sense that maybe this is some kind of storyline. But my feeling is it's not. My feeling is, you look at what happened on TV leading up to this. You look at how the heel turn was botched, how Ambrose came out there with the sirens and the gas mask, and how the match at TLC got boring chants from the fans. If I was Dean Ambrose, I would be frustrated too, because this heel turn should have been the hottest thing in WWE, and it cooled off very quickly, and it's pretty much been considered a flop. So realistically, I don't blame him for being frustrated. If he's frustrated, I totally get it. Got this one here from Caleb Jacobs. First time asker, but long time supporter. Thank you for that, Caleb. Do you think that Triple H or any of the McMahons will ever go into the Hall of Fame, or would that be nepotism? Well, the story I heard was that Vince McMahon personally does not want to go into the Hall of Fame. And my feeling is he will, obviously, but could end up happening after he dies. Triple H, I think, will definitely go in sooner than later. You look at his career, and not just his in-ring career, but also what he's done behind the scenes with NXT and running the company. I think it'll happen sooner than later. Stephanie and Shane, maybe. I can see how McMahon's going in would rub people the wrong way. Some people would argue it should be about honoring the talent and not the people running the company, but the McMahons, I mean, we all know what they've accomplished. We all respect it. So on one hand, you could say it's not necessary. But on the other hand, I think inducting Vince would be nice. And I think it would be a cool thing to do for him. But if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. And the buck stops with Vince. This one comes from Kyle Allen. What are your takes on Sonjay Dutt and Abyss going to WWE? Did Abyss miss his shot by going now? And will James Mitchell join Abyss in WWE? Well, apparently Abyss and Sonjay Dutt are just going to be doing producing work for WWE. They're not actually going to be in-ring performers. As far as Abyss goes and when the right time was, yeah, probably a decade ago would have been the best time for him to go to WWE as far as being an in-ring performer goes. But he decided he was better off in TNA. He was making good money there. He would have been ruined in WWE and would have had a short run. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not. Hard to say, but he did what he wanted to do, and now he's got the opportunity to work for WWE in some capacity, so he's going to take advantage of it. And Sonjay Dutt, I don't know if he's going to wrestle at some point, but the plan right now is just for the two of them to work behind the scenes. So good for them. This one comes from It's the Costanza. Would Demon Finn Balor work in the 1990s, or would it be cheesy? He would have faced Vader, Papa Shango, or the majority of the Attitude Era stars. That is a very interesting question. I'm not really a fan of the what ifs though, and I really don't know how he would work in that period of WWE, because in the 90s, especially the mid 90s, the talent roster was very thin, and there's not a lot of options for Finn Balor as far as opponents. Yeah, the costume and entrance is really cool, but when it comes down to in-ring matches, who would Balor be up against that would be a really compelling match? You have a few guys, maybe Bret Hart, Owen Hart, maybe Shawn Michaels, but beyond that, there were not a lot of guys that I think Balor could have worked with during that period. Now, Finn Balor has a similar style as a lot of the other guys in WWE. Some might say that it's stale like that. The fact that Balor has guys with similar styles and the matches would be repetitive. Maybe if Balor had guys with different styles to work with, it would be more intriguing. But I feel like Balor just would not fit in that period despite having the character. And let's face it, he's not even doing the character all that much. So I'm like, would it even matter at this point? Unless he was doing the character on a regular basis, then regular Finn Balor versus Papa Shango? I mean, quite frankly, Demon Finn Balor versus Papa Shango? Papa Shango wasn't that big of a deal. It was an interesting character, but it only lasted about a year or so, if that. Wasn't that big of a deal. So, I think Balor's in a good period. I think he's in a good era right now where he's at. This one comes from Tevin. While watching this year's Rumble, the men's version, I noticed that the future stars of WWE are vanilla midgets, to say the least. I hate to sound like the old guys from WCW by saying that. NXT and 205 Live guys are so boring. Randy said it best. ... dive. Do you agree? I do enjoy a variety when it comes to watching WWE, so I like to see the bigger guys. I like to see the smaller guys. I like to see guys that do mostly power moves, guys that do flashy moves. I like a balance. With that being said, I do like characters, and I do tend to prefer character development over spots. So as cool as the spots are, if I don't care about the storylines, if I don't care about the characters, then it's hard for me to really get invested in what I'm watching. So as far as 205 Live and NXT goes, yeah, the wrestling's great. The athleticism is arguably the best it's ever been. However, I feel like one thing that's really lacking from these talents that are up and coming is that they really lack characters. What are their characters? Again, Finn Balor puts on the pain and has the demon, so that's somewhat of a character, but most of the time he's just a guy coming out there with nice abs and a Fonz jacket, and there's no real character with him. So that's one thing I would like to see more of in WWE, but there is an audience for the two guys going out there and wrestling and just having a match. Obviously, there is an audience. It might be a niche audience, but there's still people that want to see it, and WWE's attitude is they want to give something for everybody and have a little bit of everything, so that's what they do. If you like that stuff, you have 205 Live and you have NXT. If you want more characters, I mean, not quite as good as they used to be, but if you want more characters and storylines, you tune into the main shows. This one comes from Andre. Hey Aaron, will Lacey Evans be Charlotte 2.0? They were trying to put her over several times during the match, and they made sure they look similar. Quite frankly, I don't see any similarity between the two of them other than Lacey Evans's look. She has the blonde look similar to Charlotte, but beyond that, I really don't see her being pushed like Charlotte. I don't see her being the future of the women's division. She has this 1940s fashion woman gimmick or whatever it is, and to me it's going to have a short shelf life. Now, I've been wrong about NXT call-ups before, most notably Enzo and Cass, although look where they're at now. My feeling is she's going to need to show more dimensions if she's going to be a bigger star, but right now I think they're just trying to give her a strong start like they would any other character in WWE. So it's not necessarily WWE trying to make her into Charlotte. They're just trying to give her a larger-than-life look in general and hope that something will stick with her and she'll be able to make a connection with the audience. This one comes from Eric Cruz. Was Ronda Rousey's, quote, "I can kill you" promo completely made up on the spot? Looked that way to me. Not sure how I feel about it considering she is looked at as a role model to some young girls. Any news how Vince reacted to it? And Eric, this is why the Attitude Era will never return, because somebody will get upset about a comment like that. I didn't have a problem with it. Obviously, she's not meaning it literally. She's saying, I'm going to kill you, as in I'm going to beat you up really bad. So I think that anybody out there with a brain can understand she doesn't literally want to kill Becky Lynch. She just wants to beat the crap out of her, and she's using it as fighting words. I'm going to kill you. You know, just like I would kill somebody in a game, I'm going to kill you in the game. I'm going to beat you really bad and just completely own you. That's what she means by it. I don't see a problem with it. I like it. It brings a little bit of an edge to the product. I have no idea if that was scripted or not. My feeling is it probably was not. I just don't see the script writers putting that in, but it's not like Vince can really complain about it. If Vince was upset, there's only so much he can do. Ronda Rousey is Ronda Rousey, and like The Rock, like Brock Lesnar, she can get away with things that most guys and gals on the roster cannot get away with. But I enjoyed it. I had no problem with it. This one comes from Daza20006. With Vince McMahon reportedly not wanting to be the on-screen Mr. McMahon anymore, do you see him wanting to do the Mr. McMahon death storyline? Well, if you're talking about the limo explosion, that was the whole purpose of that in the first place, was because back in 2007, he was tired of the character and wanted to write off the character. But of course, the whole Chris Benoit thing went down and that was dropped. Vince probably doesn't want to be on television, but with the numbers dropping, the ratings at all-time lows pretty much, I feel like there was an urgency for Vince to come back, and Vince felt like him coming back would be the quick fix to get people talking again, and it hasn't really worked that well. The numbers did go back up, but that's to be expected once football ended. The numbers year to year are down, and some see that as a negative. You also have to keep in mind more and more people are watching on Netflix, and not Netflix, but Hulu and YouTube and other streaming services. So that is something to consider. But at the same time, I feel like Vince is back because he wants to get those numbers up, and it's not a matter of him wanting to come back or not. I think if it was up to Vince, he would just stay behind the scenes at this point. This one comes from Boogeyman79. Do you think if booked right, do you think when Johnny Gargano comes to the main roster, he will go to Raw or SmackDown, maybe be a modern day CM Punk? I could see if they put his character in that role, it would work. I'm not sure about our modern CM Punk, but see, when I think of Johnny Gargano, I think of Shawn Michaels. So if I'm going to compare him to anybody from the past, it would be Michaels. I would see Johnny Gargano possibly as the new Shawn Michaels. But of course, I don't like saying the new this guy, because I feel like Johnny Gargano should be the first Johnny Gargano. He should be his own wrestler, his own superstar, doing his own thing. But I see him having more of an influence from Michaels than CM Punk. I haven't really heard a lot of Gargano's promos, so I would have to hear more of that to see if there's any kind of comparison between him and Punk. But when I think of Johnny Gargano, I think of a guy who's a great babyface, and he can be a great heel too, and he just has phenomenal match after phenomenal match. And that, to me, sounds more like Shawn Michaels than CM Punk. That'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ Video. Thank you all for watching and supporting the website. Pick up a t-shirt at nodq.com/shirts, and I will see you guys next time.